Good evening, everyone. If you're in a different time zone, then maybe not evening, good morning, whatever it is. We would like to welcome you to another session of our Business Applications NYC User Group. After a few months of rest, we're happy to be joined by Remi Dyon from Microsoft. We're also joined by the community leads, Nihir Shah, Aaron Binoche, Aaron Fishman, and myself, Eric Levin. In today's session, Remi will be showcasing one of the most talked about products or features, I'm not sure what to call it anymore, that was released recently and revamped, Microsoft Copilot Studio. Remi is a senior technical specialist from Microsoft, specializing in the Power Platform, AI, automation, and copilots. We are looking forward to hearing from you, Remi. So as soon as you're ready, please go ahead and present. If possible, and actually up to you, Remi, let's keep the questions to the end of the session, but you can post them in the chat and we'll summarize them at the end. So floor is yours, Remi.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks, Eric, for the intro. I'll keep an eye on the chat. So if you have a question, just drop it in there and try to address them during the presentation or maybe at the end. I know we have 1 hour, so we have plenty of time to talk about everything. And so here's the quick agenda. We're going to talk about like conversational AI. Why does it matter? Why everybody's talking about it? Then we're going to move to Copilot Studio. What's a Copilot? Maybe some of you have the question. It's fair. Why do we call it a Copilot and not a chatbot anymore? Then I'm going to show you how to build one and some of the features in a quick demo, actually in a long demo. And we will close and wrap on how to customize other copilots, because there are more than one copilot at Microsoft. You will see that. And how to manage them all. All right, let's dive right in. So the future is conversational. It all started not too long ago, just 2 years ago. I can't believe it. ChatGPT was released. We had no idea that was coming. And all of a sudden, in 3 months, they got 100 million users. And it took Facebook 4 years for that, and the previous technology even longer for that. And for me, it speaks, this chart speaks a lot because I've seen those revolution, I've seen those technology come in and you know, ramping up and all of that. But ChatGPT was instant. Everybody saw the interest because everybody realized that AI was not anymore a niche for time series and data scientists. AI was in a conversation with a chatbot that could be really smart, to the point where people were asking, like, is it really a chatbot? Is there something else behind it? So that was really like a big aha moment for everyone. Like, okay, generative AI, large language model, you can actually do great things with it. But conversational AI itself it's not new. It's something that we've been seeing with traditional chatbots for a while. But building those chatbots before was quite complex. You needed to have a lot of time, some money. You need to create them, maintain their content, integrate those chatbots with different systems. It was different platform, different framework. So it was kind of complex to build a traditional chatbot. And today, Gartner is saying by 2026, so tomorrow, 2 years from now, 30% of work activities will be conversationally enabled. So me, when I read a Gartner study, I don't really like believe the numbers or anything. But for conversational AI, I really see that 2 years from now, a platform, a business application that does not have generative AI or large language model capabilities embedded in it, I will consider that broken, because we've seen in the past 2 years that generative AI has been infused in everything and everywhere. It's the big news it's not the big news anymore. It's done. Now we are all considering that this is part of the life now. We have Copilot everywhere. We have assistants that knows AI everywhere on every website. So 2 years from now, imagine that you go to a website, it doesn't have a chatbot, or you're using a business application and it doesn't have a Copilot. People will think it's broken. And building those chatbots, now called Copilot, it's been a while. Like I said, we used to have specialized vendor building that with data scientists. They were training those models and refining the conversation. Then we moved to in-house developers with the bot framework, for example, at Microsoft. So it was like an easier framework to build your own bot. Then we had Power Virtual Agent and that low-code movement of other chatbot product where you could build a conversational assistant with no code or low code. And now we are at the generative AI world or moment where it's incredibly simple to create a copilot, but now you can leverage AI and large language model to respond to user query. So the big question is, what is a copilot? So Copilot is not just a chatbot. Chatbots, they were typically restricted to text-based conversation, built around topics, you deploy them on a website, that's it. Maybe they survive, maybe you maintain their content, but it's pretty static. Copilots, on the other hand, they are multimodal, contextual agents that work with multiple data sources in real time and leverage generative AI to generate response grounded on specific data. So that's a lot to unprocess, to process. But basically, it's a chatbot on steroid. And Copilot has been, it's a brand now for Microsoft. We have a Copilot in every cloud experience. Copilot in Dynamics, Copilot in Power Platform, in Microsoft 365, Copilot for security, which is great, Copilot for Windows, which doesn't do much, and Copilot for GitHub, which was the original Copilot. I used it 4 or 5 years ago when it was in private beta. That was for me the biggest biggest revolution for developers. Like Copilot for GitHub for me was really like transforming my life at that time. And the feedback from all of our customers and users was kind of the same. It's great. We love having a Copilot, but sometimes we have business that we want to, or business application that we want to connect to our Copilot, or we want to control some of the conversation in some area. We want to manage those customization in an easy way. So all those first-party Copilots, we wanted to do more with them. So we introduced, or Microsoft introduced Copilot Studio, which is a platform to customize existing Copilot, build new one, and manage them all at the same time. The Copilot Studio, what do you get in it? You get the ability to build your own Copilots, customize first-party Copilot. I mentioned Copilot for M365 and others we see. But it's just not just one product. It's a connected platform. It's part of the Power Platform, even though it doesn't have the power in the name anymore. People are asking, like, is it still Power Platform? Yes, it's still Power Platform. The same team that used to manage Power Virtual Agent should continue to manage Copilot Studio. It's a new name because it added more capabilities on top of Power Virtual Agent. But all the essential bricks from Power Virtual Agents, they are still there. And that Copilot Studio also have the ability to manage those Copilot. We'll see that in a minute. So clearly, you see Copilot Studio as a foundational layer. You see those vertical bricks. Those are our first-party Copilots. Copilot for M365, the biggest one for your productivity. It sits in Teams, in Outlook, in Edge. You can ask questions, summarize document, give me a recap of the last Teams meeting, who spoke, who said what. So you can like have your own personal intern. Like I see it as a very enthusiastic intern that is always here to help you, but sometimes can make mistakes. And then you have first-party Copilot in the business application domain. So those are sales Copilot, service Copilot. Like they are here for a function. They will help your customer agent. They will help your sales force. They will help you build Power Apps in the Power Platform. And at the end, on the right, you have custom Copilot. We used to call that Power Virtual Agent, but it was chatbot at that time. So now what we describe as a custom Copilot, think of it as a chatbot that you used to build with Power Virtual Agent. And the thing that you notice, Copilot Studio is not just one big opaque brick. It's actually leveraging lots of different services from Azure. So if you want tomorrow to build your own Copilot using Azure OpenAI and Azure services, you can, because that's what we did. We used Azure services, packaged them together, put a UI on top of it, and that's what we built. It's how Copilot Studio came to life. If we dive into Copilot Studio, we will discover something that we call the Copilot stack. So that's the same stack that powers all the other Microsoft Copilots. And like I said, this stack is built on dozens of Azure services: storage, indexing, large language model, the data layer, the plugin, the search provider, all of that. But the key element in that stack, that's the part in the middle, the AI orchestration brick. That's the engine that makes the Copilot stack really powerful, because it orchestrates the natural language understanding, the intent detection, the plugin, the topic triggering, the generative AI, as well as moderation and safety checks. So that whole stack is what makes Copilot unique. And that whole stack keeps your data private and encrypted through the entire process. And I want to take just 1 second to jump to a slide that is at the end of my deck. It's to talk about Microsoft Cloud and the trust in it. The thing you have to know is that the data that you use in Copilot is your data. It's not used to fine-tune any foundational model at Microsoft. We don't train any model on your data. And your data is protected by enterprise compliance and your security control. So if you create DLPs and things like that, they will apply to Copilot. You will be able to govern what kind of data goes out and in of your Copilot. And also inside that Copilot, we use large language model from OpenAI because we have a partnership with OpenAI. Microsoft has invested a lot of money in OpenAI, actually. But there's a difference between the model that you have at OpenAI. They are released first on OpenAI. So if you want the latest GPT-4 or GPT Vision, you go to OpenAI. But if you want to have enterprise-grade large language model with enterprise security, SLA, moderation, REST API, and all kinds of SDK to extend that model, you go to Azure. And that's a different world. The data stays in your tenant. It stays within your Azure ecosystem. So that's just very important to note, because customers, when they start seeing Copilot, or users, when they start using Copilot, they're like, oh, you're using my data to train your model. No, any data that you use in Copilot Studio to ground your Copilot is not used to train the model. We would not have the compute power to do that for all of our customers. We just use the data that you provide to ground the model, which stays in your Azure tenant or in your Power Platform tenant, if you don't know about the Azure world behind the Power Platform. And it's not used to train your model. And there is actually a responsible AI page on the Microsoft website that explains just that. Anyway, so on top of the Copilot stack, which is really the orchestrator, you have all those services around it. So that's what makes it an end-to-end platform. You have user experience, logic and automation, generative AI. You have access to all the premium connectors that are available in Power Automate. You also have access to Power Automate and Dataverse and all of those Power Platform tools, AI builders. All of that is part of Copilot Studio. That's why it makes it an end-to-end building platform. So when it comes to, okay, I want to build a Copilot, but who does that and where and with what kind of data? Copilots are used by a lot of different industries. We used to think of chatbots just being on a retailer website to answer FAQ at best, or on an airline website where you can change your ticket if the Copilot is really good. But actually, many industries are using copilots now because it's not necessarily customer-facing. It can be employee-facing. So in many departments, in finance, in HR, in IT, you start seeing copilots popping out and being embedded on your SharePoint site or in Teams or on an app that you use for work. And they are here for different reasons, to help you get information from HR policy, to help you create a ticket to IT because something is going wrong, to check your inventory in SAP, to create content for a marketing campaign. So really, your Copilot is a little bit everywhere where you work, in every department, and it's leveraging your data. It's not limited to the Microsoft ecosystem. It's really going out there using those Power Automate connectors, and calling APIs, leveraging data in SQL Server, in Oracle, in SAP, Workday, MailChimp, wherever is your data, we can connect Copilot to that. And I think that's what makes it really interesting. What's in Copilot Studio? I'll show you that in a minute, but I'm not going to talk about the Automation Studio and the Admin Studio, so I just want to cover that now. So you have the Building Studio. I'm going to show you that in the demo. It's a brand new Building Studio. It's integrating all the features that was initially in the bot framework only, like variable management, loop, advanced flows, like HTTP calls, things like that were more pro-developer oriented. We're bringing all of that into the Power Virtual Agent low-code user interface. So you get both worlds. You get the advanced capabilities of the Azure bot framework inside the low-code framework. But you can still switch to Pro Code. I'll show you that directly in the user interface. And in that workspace, you get Generative AI. We go deep on that. And plugins also. That's a very key component in Copilot. And then you can publish to different channels in Copilot Studio. I'll show you a couple of channels available. And then we have built-in analytics and insight. But on top of Copilot Studio, you have that Automation Studio, Power Automate, with all those actions and AI Builder, where you can craft your digital process automation, craft your flow, and interact with all those systems and connect that to Copilot. And then finally, you have the admin. The Copilot Studio sits in the Power Platform admin as well, so you can control and govern all your Copilots from that same place where you used to control your chatbot. So I talked about multi-channel. Copilot can be published into different channels. And more than that, the same Copilot can be exposed into different channels. So you can have one Copilot with different experience based on the channel. Let's say I'm an employee, I can log in, I have access to a lot of things, but that same Copilot could be exposed on the website and just answering FAQ. And the Copilot will have a difference between authenticated mode and not authenticated mode, or anonymous. And it's the same Copilot, and you can have it on your website, in Teams, on Facebook, in Slack. So really the channels are really wide. You can even have audio channel with some of our partners that you can see at the top. You can connect an IVR, interactive voice recognition system, and handle voice conversation, including tone variation and DTMF input for the nerds of the IVR on the call. So really, your Copilot can be fully multi-channel. Now I want to talk about one topic in particular, because that has been the top of the conversation and top of mind for many people. It's how to use generative AI in Copilot Studio. So we use generative AI for different reasons or different functions. The first one is what we call generative answers. So it's to dynamically generate multi-turn conversation based on the organization data. So we connect our Copilot with external facing websites, SharePoint site containing documents, internal APIs, OneDrive, documents that you directly upload to your Copilot. And we use all that knowledge, all that unstructured data, because it's PDF, doc file, text file, CSV, all of that unstructured data. And we ground, our large language model in it, so that when I ask a question, the large language model actually, there's going to be some search in it first to find amongst all those documents which one are relevant to that question, and then sending all that data to the large language model to generate an answer. I'll show you that in a minute. That's generative answer. The second part is something a little bit more advanced, more recent. It was released late last year. Is generative action. So it's the ability to close and APIs to act on the user behalf. And while we are acting, we are also going to generate a conversation with the user to know some of the input parameters that we may need to call an API or execute a flow or call something. So that's generative action. We'll see that as well. And then finally, the last place where we use generative AI in Copilot Studio is our generative assistance. That's the Copilot inside the Copilot, kind of an inception mechanism. And that's the one that you see a little bit everywhere around the Power Platform. You have Copilot in Power Automate, Copilot in Power Apps, Copilot in Power Page. They help you build that flow, build that app, find the right formula, even generate CSS, HTML in Power Page. So that's the Copilot to build. That Copilot is a little bit different. It uses a different model. For example, it uses a GPT-4 model, and the generative answer and generative action are using a GPT 3.5 Turbo. But generative assistance to build your Copilot, since it has to produce code at the end, or to be really precise, it's using a GPT-4 model. And that's generative assistance. It's already available. And why is generative AI so important in conversational AI? It's because with previous technology, Power Virtual Agent, amongst others, we used to create topics. So we had our list of questions that we wanted to address, and list of functions that we wanted the bot to be able to do. So we would craft them. That's it. It's over. All of the other questions and functions are left out. That's missed, or we need to escalate to a live agent, or hoping someone will help us. With generative AI and large language model, we are changing that concept. You still need to create manual topics to answer very specific question, or to orchestrate a conversation exactly the way you want. That's fine, but that list has shrunk a little bit, because all those FAQs and random questions that you tried to answer and build topics for that, you don't have to worry about that. You can expose your knowledge sources and API, and the generative answer and generative action will handle the rest. So you cover that long tail of unanswered question using enterprise content. So that's a big change in terms of the ability to respond to your customers or your employee or the users. So I've talked enough. I think that's enough slide for now. I want to stop sharing that and move to a demo, if that's okay with you. All right, that's green. I'm still having an eye on the chat, but it's late. I know everybody's tired, long day at work. Not a lot of activity right there, but it's fine. I get it. All right. I hope everyone can see my screen. If you can, clap once. All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, so I'm in my Copilot Studio environment. You can see I have many Copilots, and I created one for today. Actually, I created it a while ago, but I'm going to talk about this Copilot today. So the first thing you see is that if you use Power Virtual Agent, that looks really familiar. Because we used the user interface of Power Virtual Agent, but we infused additional features and capabilities in that. And the first you can see is the generative AI menu here. That was new. Extending Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, that's something new. We'll talk about that in a moment. And also topic and plugins. Oh, if you're not on mute, can you just... All right. There you go. I'm not on mute. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. So the new thing that you notice is like plugin action. That's something that was not there in Copilot, in Power Virtual Agent. All right, let me switch to the demo website and show you a little bit what a Copilot in real life can do. So I built this Copilot as an employee assistant. So it's my AI Copilot, and I'm a technical specialist at Microsoft. I go to the learn.microsoft.com website probably like 15 times a day to find answers to some of my questions or some of my customers' questions. So this Copilot, I connected it to Microsoft Learn question. So if I want to ask a question on that, it's grounded on that data. And I can just ask a question like, how does generative answer work in Copilot Studio? It's going to go on the learn.microsoft website using Bing search API, because my Copilot actually doesn't search any website. My Copilot is very lazy. It only uses third-party search and indexings. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. So it's calling the Bing API, searching for content that match my query, my question. And the Bing API is going to return the top 3 pages. And it's going to send those pages to the large language model, do some summarization, get my question, craft an answer, and then there's going to be some checks, moderation checks, safety check to make sure that the content that we provide to the user first is accurate and is actually on the source, and second, that it is not harmful or offensive to anyone. And we're going to provide a citation link, a reference link, so that if I click on generative answer, it takes me to that Copilot Studio generative answer. How does it work? Okay, cool. And I can ask all kinds of questions, like do we have ServiceNow connector in Power Automate? I know the answer, but you'll see the point. So same thing, it goes there. Yes, there is a ServiceNow connector available in Power Automate. Great, I use it every day. What action can this connector do? And here you see that I'm not talking about like the ServiceNow connector in Power Automate. I'm in the context of my conversation, and the Copilot realizes that and takes my previous question into account into our conversation. So when I ask what action can it do, yes, it can do create a record, update a record, retrieve a record, like all the action of the connector. And if I click on my ServiceNow connector, it takes me to that page, and I can make sure, yes, those are the actions that my ServiceNow connector can do. All right. So just to give you that, the Copilot, what the great thing about it is that it's a conversation. It keeps the context. It understands what you are saying, why you are saying it. Because if I just ask what action can this connector do, that's going to be weird. Anyway, so that's when I leverage learn.microsoft.com as a data source. But what if I want to use something that is not on learn.microsoft.com? For example, we have a document at Microsoft, which is the licensing guide for the Power Platform. The licensing guide for the Power Platform is, do I have it here? Yes, it's everybody favorite PDF. I can't find it for some reason. Anyway, it's 72 pages of beautifully crafted language about licensing, and it's very complex document, lots of tables, lots of images and graphs and small prints and everything. It's awful. But for a large language model, it's great. You can ask questions. And I actually went ahead and I went to my generative AI feature in Copilot Studio, and I added that document. Oh, actually, I can download it right from here if that allows me to do. Oh, yeah, there you go. So that licensing PDF. So it's a PDF that is how many pages? 52 page. And you can see that it's able to go through very complex tables like that. Because when I go to my Copilot, it gave me, okay, how many messages are included in Copilot Studio license and how much does it cost? So I asked 2 questions in one line, 2 information in 1 question. And it went ahead and get me exactly the number of messages included in my license and the cost. And I have a citation here that will refer to that particular PDF. And you can see here, yes, it's 25,000 messages per month. And it costs $200 and you get 25,000 message. So it gets data, not from a website, but in that scenario, from a document that I uploaded to my Copilot. And I can upload a lot of documents. There is just a limit in size for each document, but as long as you have Dataverse capacity, you can upload documents. And funny thing, you can also use Power Automate to inject documents into your Copilot, because those documents are stored in a Dataverse table. So you have access to those documents. Anyway, so that's like I'm conversing with my Copilot. It's based on a website. It's based on internal document. But right now, I'm an anonymous user. I have access to that because the website is public, and the document you upload to a Copilot, they instantly become public. We don't have any permission on those documents. So be careful what you do when you upload a document into that Copilot. It's going to be available to all users, authenticated or not. So now I'm going to log in, because Copilot allows me to do just that. So I can be an authenticated user. Either I use SSO or I use Entra ID. I can use all kinds of authentication mechanism, but here I'm using Entra ID with a code to sign me in. And now you can see that first my Copilot recognizes who I am. Hello, Remi, because it has access to my Microsoft 365 profile in the graph. And now I have much more option. You can see at the beginning, I was just limited to, okay, question regarding Microsoft Learn, but now I have access to all kinds of things. HR policies, IT system. I can open support ticket, check knowledge base, and still check Microsoft Learn. And you can see I built like a quick menu at the bottom. So if I want to quickly, check something from, I don't know, my last expense, it pulls my last expense directly into the Copilot. So here I'm connected, I'm authenticated, I have access to internal APIs of my company. I can pull that expense report from the financial system. And the good thing is I can do more than text. I can generate a complex adaptive card with HTML objects, CSS, pictures, links, even collapsing accordion, and button for approve or reject that will trigger an API call to approve or reject my trip to the Power Platform conference last year, actually. Well, it was already last year. So you can see that already now I'm connected, I have access to APIs, and I can do rich interaction with my user, and it's pretty cool. So okay, I have an expense report to check. So now that I'm authenticated and I have access to internal APIs, I also have access to internal knowledge base. For example, I connected my Copilot to my internal ServiceNow knowledge base. That ServiceNow knowledge base, out of the box, it comes with an IT knowledge base. I didn't create it. So you can see here, what are you looking for? The only option I have for my knowledge base for this demo is this IT knowledge base. But technically, if you have multiple knowledge base in your ServiceNow instance, you could search them all, or you can search a specific knowledge base. So you can see that already I can scope generative answer. I can send it to a website, I can call an internal API, and within that internal API, I can scope again the data. So what are you looking for? Okay, it's a IT knowledge base. How do I change my signature in Outlook? All right, cool. What this is doing, it's using the ServiceNow connector from Power Automate, but directly from my Copilot Studio. I'm not calling a Power Automate flow. I'll show you that. Sending that question to ServiceNow, and ServiceNow is great because they have an indexing mechanism. So it knows which knowledge article contains specific keywords and everything. So I'm leveraging their search API to find which knowledge article match my question. ServiceNow is going to return me the top 3 results, because potentially it could be a combination of multiple knowledge base. And I use that in generative answer, just like I use a website or a document on SharePoint or a document that I uploaded to ground my model. So here I send that article, ground my model in it. How do I change my signature? The model computes everything and it tells me, okay, here are the steps to change your signature. And I even built the reference link to ServiceNow. So when I click on it, takes me to ServiceNow, to that knowledge-based article, because ServiceNow knows exactly where the information came from. I can request it from the API and build a URL that is custom for my user. So here I went to my email signature knowledge article. Okay, cool. Now, one of the most common things from our customer that wants to do a Copilot for their employee is to connect their SharePoint site to the Copilot. So out of the box, we can use SharePoint in our topic. So if I go to my topic, system topic, there is a topic called Conversational Boost, which is triggered whenever another topic is not triggered, because that's important. There are levels between the different topics. If you create manually a topic for your users, that's going to be the priority one. If Copilot doesn't find anything in your topic, it will go to the fallback mechanism, which is on unknown intent. I didn't know what to do. So if I go to my conversational boosting topic, within that topic, you will see that I have something that is not out of the box. I'm testing if my user is logged in. If it's true, then I'm not going to go on the public website. If it's true, I'm going to go to SharePoint and OneDrive. And you can see in my data source that here I'm pointing to my SharePoint drive and specifically to the HR part of my SharePoint site. So now I'm authenticated, means SharePoint know who I am, and SharePoint can apply my permission to see which document I can read. So if I ask, is yoga covered by Perks Plus? Perks Plus, it's a benefit we have at Microsoft that covers like all kinds of sports in a calendar year. And I have a document on the HR website that tells me what and what isn't covered by this Perks Plus. So when I ask a question and I'm authenticated, my Copilot is going to branch out and go to my SharePoint site. On SharePoint, we can't use the Bing API to search it because it's internal to your tenant. But we can leverage the Graph API, which is SharePoint indexer in the backend, to ask the question and search through all the SharePoint documents, whatever document, mention yoga, Perks Plus, and things like that. So in this scenario, I have a document called perksplus.pdf, very original name. And yes, yoga is covered by the program. And if I open my link, it takes me to my SharePoint site, opens that document, and there it is. It's covered by Perks Plus. And that I got the answer here because I have permission to open that PDF on that SharePoint site. If I ask to my Copilot, what are the fiscal results, or what's the fiscal results of Microsoft before it's even published publicly, even if maybe that document is somewhere on a SharePoint Microsoft, I'm not allowed to read it, so the Copilot will never use it to answer the question. There is a permission check when I ask my question. That's part of that AI orchestration that we were mentioning earlier that really makes the Copilot stacks very powerful. All right, so that's a good look at generative answer. Now I want to talk about generative action. And for that, I'm going to go back to my Copilot Studio user interface because there is a lot of things I want to show you here. So generative action, it's what we also call a plugin. Plugin action. So many names to say the same thing. Here, what we are essentially doing is we are using an official connector, a custom connector, a Power Automate flow, and we are wrapping them into a plugin. And the goal with that is to be able to describe using natural language what that flow, that API, that connector is doing. So let's take an example with ServiceNow. ServiceNow, I have my ServiceNow API. I can use it for knowledge article, but ServiceNow, they have another API, another connector to create incidents, those famous IT support tickets. And I took that ServiceNow incident connector and I wrapped it into a plugin. And when I did that, I added some extra information. So the first thing you have to do is you have to define in natural language the description of each parameter that API needs. So, for example, to create an incident in ServiceNow, you need a title, a description, a severity, and a username. So 4 parameters in. Here, the username, I'm already logged in, so I know who the user is. I don't have to ask for it. Second, I need the description, the title of the incident, and the urgency. But the urgency is not like a text string that you can send to ServiceNow. It has to be 1, 2, or 3, because those are the different levels I configured in my ServiceNow. So here I mentioned to my ServiceNow API, wink, wink, you should use 1, 2, or 3 whenever you call that API. So what this is doing, what is this doing? So let's take a second and imagine you have to create that manually, create that plugin, create that conversation with the user to be able to call an API. So it means you have to ask for the description, ask for the title, ask for the urgency, maybe have a feedback loop to be able, do you want to change any of those values? So it has to be a very complex conversation with lots of branch. Here, I just dropped my plugin into a topic and I gave a trigger phrase. Let's see what that does. ServiceNow plugin. I just created a simple trigger phrase for my demo. Here you can see that it's executing my plugin, but it's generating a conversation. Please provide a description of the incident ticket. That's because I told the API the first parameter is the description of the incident. So the large language model understands that, rephrase that into a question, and say, what do I say? I lost my work phone. All right, whatever. What's the title of the incident? Okay, lost work phone. Very original. And then it's going to ask me like, what's the urgency level of the incident? And see, it reused my my hint, use 1, 2, or 3. And I'm going to say like, actually, change the title to urgent lost phone and set urgency to the highest one, to 1. And in here, I told the large language model, change that previous value I gave you that he stored, or the large language model stored somewhere in a variable that I didn't define. And then it changed that. And at the end, it's asking me, okay, are those information correct? And you can see the title has been changed and the urgency has been set to 1, all of that in one sentence. So now if I say yes, and if the demo gods are with me, they are not, that should execute the ServiceNow incident API and return me a ServiceNow ticket. I've had that bug several times today. I don't know why that happened. It usually works. But anyway, you get the concept of generative action. You have a plugin, you expose that plugin to the large language model using description, and the large language model creates that conversation to gather information. So that's generative action. And we are actually taking that generative action a step further, because you saw that I had to manually put that plugin in a topic and have a trigger phrase to execute that plugin. All that. So dynamic chaining. Oh my god, on time. Okay, good. Chat, all good. All right, cool. Dynamic chaining, it's turned off. I wanted to turn it on while you're here. It's going to change that. It's going to change how we execute plugin or how we discover plugins. So I'm going to turn on dynamic chaining, save that. And then I'm going to go back to my topic and plugin and show you something. Now you can see that now all of the topics and plugins that are compatible with dynamic chaining are flagged as triggered dynamic chaining. So it's no longer a trigger phrase. So if I go to my, what was the one I wanted to show you? Yeah, the plug, whatever, like my benefits. Anyway, you'll see that the dynamic chaining created a prompt. I can change that prompt. It generated that prompt automatically when I switch from trigger phrase to dynamic chaining. But anyway, so now every plugin, every topic becomes accessible to dynamic chaining. So in my plugin, I have the weather, MSN weather, very classic one. Get the current weather. And it's not in any of my topic. I didn't create a weather topic. But now that I've turned on dynamic chaining, that plugin is available to the large language model directly. What is the weather in New York City? Are you guys cold? And I even make a typo for that. And I'm going to turn the tracing mode on. So here, that little button is to do dynamic chaining tracing, so you can see what's happening. New York City is currently heavy rain with a temperature of 49. You gotta love living in New York City. Anyway, I hope it's accurate. Actually, I'm not in New York City, so I cannot tell if it's like that. But you can see here that it executed my current weather plugin without me having to go to a topic, add that plugin. And you can see also that I said New York City, and it understood that I need a location to execute that plugin. And New York City, the large language model understand that obviously it's a city, and so it injects that into my get current weather plugin. And in that plugin, when I imported that connector in that plugin, I just hard-coded the unit to be imperial, because I don't want my Copilot to ask me, how do you want your temperature in Fahrenheit or in Celsius? No, I just want it in Fahrenheit. So you can see here, executing an API, returning the data, and generating a conversation for it, because the current weather is the plugin that is generating that answer. I didn't have to craft that manually, that answer manually. But let's do something a little bit more challenging. I have other plugin action that are pretty cool. For example, I have when we travel at Microsoft, we go to one office to the other. You need to activate the badge to work in that other building or in that other city. So here, let's say I'm traveling to Paris and I need to activate my badge. So my Copilot is connected to the IT system responsible for that. Okay, then here it's called my badge activation. It's a Power Automate flow actually, and understood that I was going to Paris. So you can see that input was Paris, and my Power Automate flow is actually like setting up my badge correctly, and then it's sending me an email with a confirmation. So you can see this is the answer from my Power Automate flow that I captured and sent it back to Copilot Studio on top of sending it via email just for the demo purpose. And in here, what's the weather there? And now I'm not even telling the plugin like what's the weather in New York City. Now it's understanding that I'm not talking about New York City anymore. Oh, wow. I'm not talking about New York City anymore. I'm planning to go to Paris. So the conversation has shifted. And when I activate my badge in Paris in one plugin and I ask what's the weather there to the other plugin, they are able to send each other information. So now I understand that I'm talking about Paris, France, and the temperature is colder than New York, but not greater. Anyway, and I don't know why I have a glitch. Your badge has been successfully. Okay, all right. Probably like the email that I returned plus a previous message. Anyway, probably a bug. Anyway, so you see that now dynamic chaining takes the conversation with the Copilot. It's more interesting. And from a maker perspective, I only had to create a Power Automate flow and wrap that Power Automate flow in the plugin, or use an out-of-the-box connector for something that is already there, like a ServiceNow instance or MSN Weather. So that's dynamic chain. All right, that was a good demo. I want to wrap up with a couple of things I want to share with you. Stop sharing, share here, and it's going to be this one. All right, you should see my deck coming up in a second. Yep, it's coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so we've seen generative answer, we've seen generative action. I didn't show you the building a Copilot because now everybody kind of saw that already. Like you can use that everywhere in the Power Platform, and it's not that interesting. It's a feature that has been there for a while. But one feature that I'm really excited about is the ability to extend the other first-party Copilot using Copilot Studio. So the one that comes to mind first for everyone is Copilot for M365. This one, you can ask all kinds of stuff around email, Outlook, Teams, things like that. So wherever it sits, it's helping you to be more productive. But this one, we can customize it. We can extend it with Copilot for M365. How do we, with Copilot Studio, sorry. How do we do that? We do that with plugins. Just the one I showed you that I created with ServiceNow, with my Power Automate flow, all of those plugins, you can export them and expose them to Copilot for M365. And then the modern work admin or the Power Platform admin can decide which plugin will be assigned to which user group. So you can even segment, okay, in HR, they're going to have access to those plugins. In IT, they're going to have access to those plugins. And then every employee will get at least 1 or 2 plugins, okay? So you can really create a plugin, deploy it to M365, and then govern it just like you would govern a tiny Power App that you embed into your Copilot. And that's the first one. The other first-party Copilot can also be extended. So we have Copilot for Service, where it's customer agents that are either typing or on the phone with customers. We have a Copilot for that. It's going to be similar to what you saw today. It's grounded on your data. It has that generative answer capabilities. It can be connected to ServiceNow, Salesforce, Zendesk, all of that out of the box. So it makes it really easy to deploy, and you can put that Copilot anywhere you want, even in Salesforce. And Copilot in Power App. If you saw that in Power App, now you can drop a Copilot component from Copilot Studio inside your Power App. We used to have the Power Virtual Agent that you could deploy in Power App. Now we have Copilot that you can deploy in your Power App. So you can have a conversation over the data in the Power App, or you can extend with custom topics that you can surface inside your Power App, because Power App now becomes a channel just like web or Teams. So you can see here, you have a Copilot that is sitting on the side of my mobile or tablet app, and that's a responsive object. It's pretty cool. So you've seen, you can create custom Copilot, you can extend Copilot. And I didn't have time to show you that today because we didn't have enough, but Copilot Studio itself can be extended with Azure services. So you can bring Azure OpenAI on your data and expose that to your Copilot. So as a generative answer data source, instead of a SharePoint site or a public website or a document, you can have Azure OpenAI endpoint directly in Copilot. And in there, you can choose which model you want, what kind of embedding you want, what kind of indexing technique you want to use. So you can really have a pro code experience and surface that into Copilot Studio and use that great UI, UX, and combine that with other topics. I saw the question for the roadmap on government cloud. I'll address that in a second. So you can extend Copilot with Azure OpenAI, and yeah, that was it. Finally, one thing is everything we do at Microsoft, it takes more time than at OpenAI, because we take time to infuse our responsible AI principle in everything AI. We want to make sure that your data is secure. We want to make sure that we are inclusive, accountable for the output that is generated by AI. We want to be transparent by providing you reference of where the data came from. Fairness, if you generate any kind of unique content, we want to make sure it's fair for everyone. And we want to be reliable and safe when using responsible AI. So everything started with our governance that is across all of our products. And based on that governance that is everywhere, we define rules, training, practice, tools, and processes that we apply every time we release a new model in Azure OpenAI. So in Azure OpenAI, you have safeguards that are not present on OpenAI directly. So you can be sure that when you use those large language models, they are used responsibly. Thank you. All right, Aaron, how's the roadmap looking for the government cloud? Any preview or GA date available? I'm guessing you're talking about generative AI or generative action. Unfortunately, I don't work with government cloud. I'm full private, so I don't know the answer. A lot of my colleagues are talking about it because I know there's a lot of expectation from government around that, but it takes even more time to be sure that all those services met all the government requirements. So it takes more time. I'm hoping that by build, which is late May, 3 months from now, 4 months from now, at build this year, late May, they will be announcing good news for government users and customers. We have 2 minutes left. Anyone have a question? Want to say something? Say hi. All right. If you haven't played with Copilot Studio, I highly recommend you do that. We have an address, aka.ms, try Copilot Studio. You can create a trial, you get that for 30 days. You get all the features, generative AI, connectors, everything. Everything's for free for 30 days. Some good resources here. Of course, the community page, the community studio, Copilot Studio community. I go there almost every day trying to answer questions from the different users. So check the Copilot Studio community on the community page. We have a cool demo that one of my peers built. If you want to play with it, it's going to leverage like some of the key features I showed you today, but it's a very basic demo. Don't expect to have a ServiceNow instance connected to it, but it gives you a good sense of what generative AI can be in a Copilot. All right, that's it. I could talk about Copilot for forever, but I only got 1 hour. So if you want to learn more, you're gonna have to go there. And yeah, that's it. Arik, you want to take it away? Thanks, Tushar. I don't know it. No, Arik, we don't hear you anyway. Thank you. Thank you, Will, everyone. I know you have better things to do than watching Microsoft people talk about Copilot at 8 p.m. Eastern on which day is it today? On a Tuesday? Is it Tuesday? No, it's what is it? It's Tuesday. Yeah, I don't know which day it is. Sorry, I'm lost. I think I lost audio. Arun, please close.
Yeah.
Arun.
Something.
Something
you're
wrong
with Eric's side. Hey, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something wrong with Eric's side, but thanks, Remi. This is a great, insightful session. Hope all the audience enjoyed. We didn't hear any questions, but I think you have a Twitter handle, LinkedIn, right?
I do have a LinkedIn. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I stopped using Twitter when it became X. Sorry about that. But yeah, connect on LinkedIn. I write some articles around the Power Platform, and it's mostly interesting, at least I hope. So I'm trying.
No problem. Yeah, once again, thanks so much, Remi. So this is our business application NYC user group. Probably people can scan the QR code, join there for future events. We are planning for more events upcoming days for more new products and new features was Microsoft releasing. Hopefully, there are other 2024 release wave 1 plans, and we will cover that in our next event to cover most interesting what we are looking for in Dynamics 365 Power Platform and other products, first-party apps. Go through this link.
Quick question, Arun. Is the recording going to be public? Are you going to post it somewhere?
Sure, yeah. We have our YouTube channel.
Cool.
It will be posted very shortly. Okay.
All right. Share the link when you have it. I'll share it with my network.
Awesome. We'll do that.
All right. Thank you, everyone. It's been fun. I hope to see you again and do that again. And have a good evening.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
good rest of the day. Yep.